is really, really cool. From my perspective, I have had a few guests from Chicago on the show, but it is always incredibly special and a lot of fun to have somebody from the city that I am in, and especially a painter, because, you know, we'll talk about painting and we'll talk about what I love about painting with tonight's guest. And so, without further ado, we're going to bring her right up. And here we go. Oh, we have a countdown. Hey.
Hi. I am in my studio, so bear with me.
Oh, no, this is fantastic. This is great. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I'll have I always have fun stories, but Jenny, how do you say your last name?
Vyas?
Vyas.
Yeah.
So Jenny Vyas. I wasn't
Yep.
100% sure, which is why I didn't introduce you, because usually you can talk to each other backstage when you do these
That's
things.
right. That's right.
I was
That's right.
gonna ask you. So this is the first time we have actually spoken. And you're in Pilsen, right?
I'm in Chicago. I'm in the suburbs right now, but
Oh, you are in the
my
suburbs.
work,
Okay.
the reason you're thinking Pilsen is because my work was showcased in Pilsen.
Yes, yes, yeah, there you go. There you go. Because you were in that is it. In fact, I love the arts district and neighborhood in Pilsen. It's absolutely
Oh, yeah. So,
amazing
yeah,
place.
I think it's elevated so much in the last couple of years.
Well, it has come up to, like, I think my first wife and I looked at moving there. Ooh, man, gosh, I don't even want to say how long ago it was. 20 plus years ago. And it was
Mhm.
just, I mean, look, there's good and bad. We could probably get into this kind of stuff too, but and I left my hat on. There's good and bad um, about gentrification, to be sure.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
but Pilsen was, it was really starting to be up and coming. But it's I think Pilsen has done a pretty good job of maintaining the character of the place that it has
Yeah.
always been.
Yeah.
Um, Probably has not lifted up the incomes of the folks, that are not white and
Yeah.
wealthy, but it hasn't priced everybody out, maybe.
No, and it's hard, right? Like when you have restaurants that cannot, like, one, you cannot raise the prices because people cannot afford more expensive cuisine there. So you also cannot um, pay at the same level that you would in another neighborhood in Chicago.
Right.
So I think it's just a catch 22.
It
You know what
is.
I
It
mean?
is.
Like,
It's
yeah,
tough. It's really tough. But
yeah.
before we get into any of the politics, if we do, and especially of Chicago, which is crazy, let's let people know that you are. Well, what do you consider yourself? I know you're an artist. Are you a painter? Is that what you primarily are? What how would you
I'm just an
describe yourself?
artist. I'm a fine artist, contemporary fine artist, and a muralist.
Ah, okay. Contemporary fine artist and a muralist. I like that very much. And as I think I said in one of our one of the Instagram posts, like, I don't get all fanboy or all nervous for anybody, but anybody that can put paint on canvas, and paint on a wall, to me, that is like, it's the ultimate representation of art. I know I'm going to have a lot of artists that might say, "Whoa, wait, what about what I do?" And I mean, I'm a photographer. I consider myself an artist. My art photography is abstract, and it's, um, I'm not famous or galleried, but we sold our work, for quite a few years. But usually, like, it would end up at, like, doctors' offices and stuff like that. But
Okay.
it was on a wall.
Yeah, that
But
sounds amazing though. I love
yeah,
photography. I mean, I cannot
but
I
oh,
cannot use that as one of my mediums, but maybe one day.
maybe you never know, right? Well, and it's just
Yeah.
so fun to know what in a lot of ways what your limitations are too, right? I mean, I know
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
paint. I wish I could paint. My ex-wife is a painter and quite a good painter, and my
Oh,
daughter's
amazing.
pretty decent at it too. And she's in school in New York, trying to figure out what she wants to do. So that's pretty exciting. But painters, yes, painters, painters, painters. Like, if you think of even like Lacroix, the cave paintings, from
Yeah.
literally prehistoric times,
Hmm.
the human language probably was not even fully formed at that point, and yet people are painting, like,
Hmm.
you know, and they climb into a dark cave. They didn't have any flashlights, you know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
little torches you see in the movies that people can walk a long distance. Those don't exist, not especially back then. You can't even really make one today without trickery, right? So
Yeah.
they crawled and walked in darkness and everything to get to this spot and then to get some light on there just to paint. You know what I mean? Like just the
Yeah.
idea of painting in a cave where nobody else can see it. What statement were all of those folks making, right? So, but yes, painting
Yeah.
to me, that's like the basis of art. Putting something on something, with some crushed okra and some sweat on a cave wall to me I guess that's must have been my first introduction to art when I was little was
Okay.
painting as art. So yeah. It's got to be fun to be a painter.
It is. I mean, it's got, yeah, like any career, it's got its own challenges, but it is definitely rewarding, especially because I picked it up later in life. So yeah,
Ah, very cool. Very cool. So when did you start?
about 7 years ago, officially 6 years ago, like full time, like not full time. Full time, I'd say about 4 years ago, but I embarked
Wow.
upon it. Yeah. So
How did
I
you
consider myself. Sorry, go ahead.
how'd you no, go ahead. You consider yourself
I still consider myself a student, and I think I will always be a student. But yeah, I feel like I'm fairly new in this space, and is still carving my
well, you may
identity.
be new, but like your stuff is really good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
Adam
thank you.
says cave paintings were the original PowerPoint. Well, there you
Yeah,
go. Maybe they were sending a
right.
message, need
It's the
more
truth.
beef
Yeah,
um, for what they were painting on those walls. Um,
probably.
yeah, that'd be funny. It was just a corporate message. The But wow, 4 years ago, you kind of is where you kind of consider your professional start as a painter. Can
Hmm.
I ask, had you been, to be pun intended, dabbling in painting for your whole life, or
No, no, I could always sketch and draw, but never really did use it as a career. My background is in e-commerce
is
and
in
digital
what?
marketing. E-commerce and digital marketing. So I've
Oh, you're
headed
pretty good at it. No
e-business.
wonder.
I've headed online marketing for businesses for about 15 years before I even thought about painting. And I went through a dark period in 2013, and that's when I started thinking about painting, and I just couldn't, like, I didn't know where to even start because I'd never ever touched a brush before. And I had taken one class in college. My background, my education is in graphic design. So we had to take one
Okay.
class, a painting class, like painting 101. And I had, I hated it. I didn't, like, never even thought that I would ever paint in life. And then in 2013, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I played a little bit with it in 2014. And towards the end of 2014 is really when I started paying attention to this. And did I lose you? Okay, there. I think
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Um, that's okay. And then in 2015 is really when I took it seriously and started playing with it. So, oh, hi Adam, thank you. He's saying he's still listening. Um, so yeah, and I, like, it was just such a crazy thing because I was terrified, right? Like, it was something that I had never done before. And I knew it was going to be a very public career because in the past I was, in a cubicle or my office space. And this was
Hmm.
going to be out there for people to see. But during that dark period, I mean, I truly believe that if you're going to take a risk, you take it when you're down because there's
Oh, good.
not
Yeah.
much left, not much left to lose, right? Like,
Can't
I
fall
mean,
any further, right?
right, you can't. I mean, and you already know how to survive, right? Like, you've already survived this, like, really
I
darkness,
love that
this darkness.
attitude.
And so I decided, I'm like, why not? I'm just going to give it a shot. And I'd say about a year later, like really dedicating enough time to it for about a year, I found something very special.
You did find something very special, and I have seen you with your Instagram videos, with your technique and well, you have multiple techniques, obviously, but
Right.
the
Hmm.
ink, the alcohol ink, that
Right.
kind of
That's my new
technique.
medium. Right.
Yeah, that is really neat. And I mean, I've seen similar techniques in terms of pouring of materials and stuff
Right.
like this, but your results, I mean, they're yours. They're very distinctly yours, and I think that's
Thank
you know
you. And
that's
that was a
very,
massive
very cool.
evolution. I mean, it's been 3 years in the making as far as this current style goes, because I liked the idea of flow acrylics or flow painting, but I also love my figurative work. And that's something I
Hmm.
didn't know how I was going to marry the two. The figurative work has such like control. It requires a lot of discipline.
Hmm.
And the abstract, you really have no idea where it's going to go. It has
Right.
a mind of
Right.
its own. And so bringing the two together, the marriage really allows me to bring like this magical place that I land in, where it lets me, it frees up this control that I have that I never thought I would be able to do when I started painting. Because you get so caught
So,
up in technique, right?
and control. I'm
Right. And
curious.
abstract allows you to play.
Right. And I'm curious. And anytime I ask a question you don't want to answer, you just say,
Sure.
I don't want to answer it.
Oh
But
no.
hopefully we won't be
No,
doing
no,
any of
no.
those.
I'm
But
happy to talk about everything and anything.
yeah,
Nothing,
very good.
everything's on
Excellent.
the
I love
table
that.
here.
The, the control. So, I
Mhm.
mean, previously in your painting experience, you're not so long painting experience, but it was really about precision and control, right? So
Right.
is that you? Is that your personality in kind of in
Yes, I
general?
am, and I didn't even know that, right? Like when I started, um, I have a problem with authority. I have a problem with like freedom is I am such a free bird, and
Hmm.
I had no idea that that like addiction to perfection or the quest for perfection
Right.
that I had and needing to do everything by myself at all times really was very hard on relationships that I had in my life, even
Mm.
myself in my growth patterns, and being able to relinquish some of that control when I embarked upon the abstract side of my work. It was such a relief. Like it's almost like a full body meditation where I can actually check out. I can physically check out, and I have no idea what's going to, show up on canvas, or I'm starting to play on paper now again. And it's just such a freeing exercise because I don't have to. I mean, I'd say 90% of the time, abstract doesn't go in the direction you want it to. So, and then you have to make it work in that space, and you had
Oh,
no
we can talk
idea
about
that
that
this was
too.
right, and you had no idea that this was waiting in you. And so when the two come
Hmm.
together in the end, I am in awe 99% of the time, staring at it, going, "Wow, I had no idea this is what was
Who
going to
did
show up on
that?
camera." Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, you actually, one of the things that I just think so. Um, a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, her husband is a photographer, and his name is Irv Vaz, and Irv must have been at an event or something that you were at. Like maybe a gallery of
Wait,
your
Irv,
whatever.
his wife is the young
Pamela.
photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Irv is
Oh yeah,
actually
yeah.
doing a video with me next month.
There you go.
We're doing a photo
There.
shoot. Yeah, Irv is
Right.
amazing.
Oh, fantastic. So
He's
somewhere.
so talented.
Oh yeah, Irv's awesome. He's
Hmm.
amazing. His photography is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he's doing my brand
And
video next month. Yeah,
oh, that'll be cool. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. The
I know. I'm
and
very
so
excited. His creative direction is so unique.
yeah, he's oh, that's really cool. That's good, good, good. So
Yeah,
then, so
yeah,
yeah, so somewhere in that mix, I came across you, like probably from something of Pam's or whatever. I saw a
right,
reference to
right,
you. I'm
right.
like, oh, who is that? And so I got to tell you, when I saw you and your work and even your involvement in community and all these things, and like, I mean, listen, your paintings are phenomenal, but
Thank
right
you.
here, that's even a little cooler because what you're saying, even what you're talking about when you're sharing your work with us, or when you have a very recent little bit of a frustration with some work that you were trying to do, and you just
Hmm.
worked it out on
Hmm.
Instagram with us. You know what I mean? You worked us
Yeah,
through it, and I mean, you talked about it and what was good and what was bad, and like that to me is just that's amazing because that we can share that with people, and
yeah,
that you can be a great painter and a great purveyor of the words and the feelings that you're going through while you're doing it. Not everybody could do that. I mean, I don't know. I never met Picasso. I'm sure he could have been a really talkative guy and explained his work really well, but he might not have been able to either. But just for you to be able to give us emotions on both of those levels, to me, I was hooked. I was in. So I'm watching you and everything. And this was still fairly early with this work that I'm doing, and we, we've come a long way, so it's not really hard for me to get guests anymore. People sometimes even ask to be on my show, which is fun. But I was like, oh, I was intimidated because I'm like, she's just too big. Like, there's just no way I could get her, to talk to me. And I had happened to be having a chat with Pam at one point, and I said, "Do you know her? Do you know Jenny Vyas?" She's like, "Oh, I love her. I love her. I love her." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to I'm just going to go for it. You know what I mean?" I didn't
Oh, I'm
mention
so
Pam or
glad you
anything to
did.
her name,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. And I was intimidated by your abilities. You know what I mean? Like that.
Oh,
Like I'm
thank
like,
you. Thank you. I
this is a
think
serious person who's a serious painter. No, I'm not contemporary to Picasso. Well, I don't know. But anyway, see, there's me fanboying, Jenny, because I was so enthralled with your work and just your the philosophical side of you that you can write
thank
about.
you.
And now it makes a lot of sense too with your social media skills, because you're all over those Instagram pages, like you're paying somebody big time to do it. I'm like, oh, it's you that you're paying big time to do
Yeah, yeah.
it.
I mean, I always say if you cannot, you should look at your social media, and if you were to hire someone and they were doing your job, the job that you're doing, would you keep them? Would you keep paying them? If not, then hire someone
Yeah.
or step up,
Don't
right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
don't look at mine. I'm ready to hire someone. I just can't quite afford it
Right.
yet.
Yeah. And I think that's I mean, for me, the conversation that I like to have on social media is about vulnerability because that's really the tenet of all my work. I started on a mission to explore vulnerability in a very deep sense, and I have a very deep interest in philosophical learnings and readings and writings. And my dad's a philosopher himself, so I grew up very a super existentialist mindset, and I needed an outlet to connect the two dots together. And when that happened through my art, and there was an audience, um, like um, talking about, there was an audience consuming that content. It was such a gift
Hmm.
because it's not an easy place to be able to share your existentialist musings and have an audience fall in love. Oh my God, my phone's on. Sorry, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Um,
Hopefully they're blowing it up.
no, it's my parents. Let me tell them I'm on a
Do what you
call.
need to do,
I
Jenny. It's
apologize.
awesome. Tell them to
Hello.
watch. Hey, Pablo, great to see you, my
Yes,
friend. Great
Dad.
to
I'm
see
on,
you.
on an interview.
Hi, Mama, Dad.
Okay.
I love it.
So I think for me to be able to create this space and a platform that where people can connect their and insert their stories with the stories that I tell, I think that it's almost like we're all looking for a tribe, right? Like we're all looking for people,
Hmm.
like-minded people, and to be able to find that community out there, and then be able to garner their community through my work. Even in my art shows, they're very unconventional. They're almost like a soiree, is what I call it. People come and
Nice.
people talk about their growth, their patterns, their learnings, their pain. Um, and we really have heart to heart conversations. And it's such a beautiful thing because um, in traditionally, when I've been to art shows, they've felt very, very dry to me because it's almost
Hmm.
like you go in
Oh,
awe
yes,
of
Muffy.
the
Look at
art.
that lovely painting.
Right. You go in awe of the work and the artist more than anything, more than the stories that are being told. Like I truly believe that um, people don't just fall in love with the art; they fall in love with the stories that are being told by the artist as well, right? Like, and we
Hmm.
all want to find our story in the work that we fall in love with.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and that's
That's
been my
powerful.
goal. Yeah, and that's been my goal, and I'm always on a
You're hitting
mission
it.
to
You're hitting that
explore
mission. You really
vulnerability on a
are.
very deep level. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because Adam says it amazes me that great art tells its own stories too. It's all in the eye of the beholder. 100%. I mean, Mark Rothko, um, when I, so fine art and me and contemporary art. Yeah,
And
modern art.
Rothko's
Ooh,
incredible,
okay.
right?
I
Yeah.
still have, yeah, anyway, I have biases, right? I'm a 55-year-old white guy, but we're always trying to outrun those biases. Um, but the first time the rube, me, the rube, the noob, the guy that doesn't really know art, appreciates it and is even creating it as a photographer when I'm pretty young, in my early 20s. I'm in film school even at this point. But I go to the Art Institute and I see a painting by, oh, Revolution, you're getting too old. You really should know the name of this painter. Doggone it. But he's a New York school guy and it's abstract. So, and his name will come to me. And it's literally just, it's about 4 by 6 in a
Mhm.
frame, and it's just abstract colors, fairly monotone, nothing super, outrageous looking or anything. And I'm up there, and I'm literally, yeah, Pollock was behind that particular
All right.
painting. There
Yeah.
was a Pollock behind this one, but um, it'll come to me. Maybe Bruce Nauman, but anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
it I'm literally either with somebody, how memories are, or with myself, but in my head or to somebody else, I'm like, what the hell? I could do that. Why is it on the wall? Right? I could today
Right.
have made that painting. I could have copied it. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
could I have produced it in that time, in that place, in that space, and the influence that it had on other artists and what they would do and how it would influence art and how it was relevant to the time and became popular and all those things beyond the paint on the canvas that made it art? No, I couldn't have done any of those things. Not even close. So my exploration and really understanding art really took off at that moment of like, okay, well, now I have to challenge my own assumptions here because if I think I could have done it
Hmm.
and it's on the wall, I'm probably not right. You know what I mean? And that I really set on kind of a journey to understand art. And then happened to marry a woman eventually who would be a painter, and her father, who's a great lover of art. And I mean, the guy's literally like a 200 IQ and just can talk about anything. Cy Twombly is like that. The work is so
Hmm.
powerful, but it's really just scribbles, right? And I mean, Pollock is drips, and Rothko. But then I discovered Mark Rothko, and I'm in Motherwell in the New York School, and I went down all of these places. And I definitely want to talk about art and women's art and underrepresentation and all that stuff because these guys get me thinking about that too. But um, I see a Rothko, and years later, when I'm homeless, one of the things that I had was my iPhone at the time because my ex-wife, we had purchased them, and she kept paying for my service. And then people in the community, when I was homeless, there was all kinds of cool stuff happened from that. But so I had my phone, and I had we're no wireless, but I had earphones, and I could listen to a piece of music and stand in front of a Rothko. And actually, I started doing this before the new wing had opened, so the guards would let me sit, and I could sit in front of that Rothko for an
They have a
hour. And when
Rothko.
I was homeless, I kind of looked like I do now. I always tried to keep myself really clean, and my beard did get really long, but I wasn't like going to be like annoyingly homeless, unfortunately, to people. I'm just sitting on the floor. Eventually, they stopped me in the new wing, but I had to stand, and I would sit because I have really bad knees. But anyway, I could sit in front of that Rothko for an hour and go into the painting, go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Take that as a portal, which is kind of what he intended them to be, into somewhere else. And then, even years after that, be in New York and Franz Klein, and just pull myself into a Klein, without music. You know what I mean? Just try, and I could kind of visualize the Klein from the other side, right? Just getting pulled into the work. And that aspect of painting was just so powerful, for me. And it's why
Hmm.
I'm just a massive fan of painting and doing that. And the power that you have as an artist, to me, as I said, it's a so powerful and beautiful story. Thank you, Adam. The Jasper Johns too. Yes. So the power of that as it relates to you is that I can feel, I can feel your work um, in what you're doing, and it's the whole package because I'm seeing you through Instagram, I'm seeing your words, and it's this uh, Jenny, say your last name again, I'm horrible with names.
Vyas.
Vyas. Sorry,
Vyas.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Vyas.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jenny
Yeah.
Vyas.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the I just have a bad memory sometimes for that stuff, but anyway, there's the whole image of you, right? I mean, where
Hmm.
with Motherwell or Rothko or Jasper Johns or any of these males that I can rattle out here. I had this one slice, so I just love that. package, and the paintings themselves stand alone. They were the first thing I saw, and I was hooked. And I'm just trying to figure out, what do I have to sell, or how much money do I have to make to get to own one of your paintings? So we'll have to talk about that at some point. And the but from the standpoint of just being a pure painter, um, what's the most fun in terms of, is it? I mean, I guess the end is obviously got to be, that's the high point. That's got to be cool. But like, what in the painting of a painting is fun? What's fun about being a painter in the moment?
Hmm. Oh, and I thank you for that story. That was beautiful. I'm a huge fan of Rothko's work. I did not know they have a Rothko at Art Institute. I
Oh my gosh, they own
totally.
four, I think. Well, they own three, and they usually only have one on rotation. Sometimes you'll see two, and I've seen every
I've never
Rothko.
seen it, and I've been there so many times.
Oh my gosh! Well, I see. I haven't been there for quite a few years, and
Unless it's all on loan right now, but I haven't
could
seen one
be
in
could be out
years.
traveling,
Yeah,
because I've
yeah.
seen every Rothko available for public view east of the Mississippi. So,
Right. Okay.
and so I've seen all
Right,
the
because
three at
Detroit
the.
has Detroit has a like the Rothko Museum or something.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
yeah, and I love his work. I mean, we really, honestly, there isn't much known about him because his practice was so he was such a hermit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think he suffered from like tremendous amount of depression.
Oh, he
Um,
did, right?
yeah, and I think from what I remember, I think he either killed himself or he died
He did.
from something like he was, yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
but his work is like so incredibly emotional to me. For a long time, my phone's background was his one of his paintings before I even started painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand like that emotional journey that you can take from a piece. For me, like the favorite part about painting is I get very fixated upon the singular emotion that I want to capture and the
Mm-hmm.
story that I want to tell. And until I get there, like in every part of the figurative like emotion that I'm like telling to the body language, until I get there, I'm not happy. And so that whole dedication to creating this like story and this emotion is so incredibly cathartic because by the time I finish it and put the brush down or my fingers down, because I paint a lot with my hands, um, I've already like almost like gone through that journey and I've exited from the painting where it's no longer mine. So it's so easy for me to just kind of walk away from it and it's ready to sell or ready to go to whatever home it belongs to. So for me, the process is the actual like um, the the bringing that specific emotion that I get so caught up in. And I
Hey,
mean, I even titled my paintings everything's very, very like there's this detail that I get so caught up in it.
oh my gosh, that is awesome. I want to dig in there. I have to go. Just Adam just sent us a link to the Mark Rothko slash
Oh, I
Felix
did not know that.
Gonzalez
I'll have to go check it out.
Torres.
Thank you. I
Like,
appreciate that.
hey, you want to grab some coffee sometime and check that out? I would love to,
I
talk
love
painting with you
that.
sometime.
I can live at Art Institute if you told me to. But
Me
yeah,
too, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Well, when I was homeless, a bunch of people, because I all this stuff happened to me online too. So this was very early. This was about 11 years ago, in the online stuff in a lot of ways, and people would give me, people they crowdsourced a pass for me at the Art Institute because they knew I liked to go. So when I was homeless, so yeah, I would spend a lot of my days at the Art Institute, looking at paintings
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff, and then taking people around that I would know too, because I would do that when I wasn't homeless as well. But yeah, wow, I did not know that either, and I really would like to see that because they've definitely got Rothkos there that they probably don't own.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so we'll see. That's really cool. I'm excited about that. The
So,
when you're when you're like, how is a painting born? Like, do you have an idea? Like, like a filmmaker, they got to write a screenplay first. Well, they got to have an idea, and then they got to sketch it out, and then they make a screenplay, and then they've got to shoot a film and
sure.
edit it and all that stuff. How are ideas generated with you?
So there is usually a story that I want to unfold. For my last show, the title of the show was Awaken. And I've been working towards this story that I've kind of unpacked over the last 5 years. My first show was Rise, and I talked about rising from pain and adversity and really kind of fueling that to find, you know, your story and finding your identity and breaking some, norms and patterns that you have repeated in life, which led to my second show, which was Purge. So once you get there, once you understand your patterns, once you know the changes you need to make, you have to purge what doesn't belong. And my third show was Awaken, um, which is when Awaken was it was more on the darker story. So the work isn't, I didn't create, when I started painting for Awaken or even planning the show, I had a very hard time locking in the theme personally because it was some dark work. I wanted to talk about demons, like the demons that we fight, and they're not easy, and they're not going away, right? Like I think
Mm.
like your trauma, but I also didn't want it to be like I heard this new term yesterday, which I'm so like in love with. It's called she called it trauma porn. I did not want it
Oh
to be
yeah, I know
trauma
that
porn,
term.
right? Like I didn't want it to be trauma porn, but I wanted to talk about trauma from a very beautiful place that unless you understand your trauma, unless you understand your demons and make friends with them, they will appear in life in areas that are so unanticipated, and they will shock you and really take over your life. And so I wanted to really face them head on in this in about and I painted 14 pieces. And it was incredibly exhausting. I'm still probably recovering from that onslaught of all those emotions. Um, but I think the story that came through was just so wonderful because I really wanted to. Um, it wasn't so much to sell. I'd say the work wasn't so much to sell. I was telling my curator that I think this is work that'll end up in a museum one day, not necessarily sell. And there's a little bit of a difference there, right? Like that commercial appeal. So I had a very hard time making the decision to either paint for an audience or paint for one audience, which is me, right?
Mm.
Like because like and so I
Right.
decided I would paint for me because this is a story that still needed to be told through me. In the future, I will paint as a community, which I do. I do some community murals, but I think like this needed to happen. And I'm so happy that I did that because while like, four pieces, four really, actually, some of the really darker pieces sold right away, which was really like such a gift to me because I almost did not put up two pieces that sold the opening night because I thought they were too dark. Um, but I think like just telling these stories through the work that I create has been such a core component, core um, pillar of everything that I do. That if I deviate from it, I feel like it's not authentic. And for me, I had a very great corporate career, and I quit that. Like I wanted to subscribe to a different agenda, right? Like, and for me, if that agenda wasn't serving this purpose of, you know, like breaking norms and telling stories that are not told, not glorifying the hero aspect of getting to the other side and finding your wings, actually talking about the pain, the grittiness of it, and really like celebrating the grittiness because that's where like we don't have the capacity to talk about growth while we're going through it, right? Like we can
Right.
very beautifully reflect upon it and we can paint about it, but how do you capture that transcendent journey that happens when pain is so like it is your status quo at the time? And I wanted to capture that. I wanted to capture that darkness before the light, happens, and that like journey. And that's always the story that I'm trying to tell. So I don't know if that helps answer the
Oh, it helps a
question.
lot. And the
Yeah.
the darkness in those paintings, is that darkness born out of the darkness that you had been going through previously, or is that yeah?
Well,
So
I mean, so I grew up with some like unresolved um, anger from childhood, some unresolved issues that I had, and then nobody teaches you that um, it just sorry, Siri just came on. Nobody teaches you that you are going to look for life's answers in in your romantic relationships, right? Like, because
Right.
that's the
Oh,
reality is where your parents leave off, your spouse picks up, right? Like, you just, there's no gap in between where you learn. And I
sorry.
always
I
say,
just. Oh my goodness. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Oh, hi, Drew. By the way, great to see you. No, yeah. I mean, like, yes, you just like you nailed it on romantic relationships
right? Because like we're
you
looking for
know.
a partners to save us. And I
Yeah.
feel like there should be a class in college, love 101. Like, let's talk about love, and let's talk about, like, let's not
Oh my gosh.
glorify
One hundred
romance like
percent.
Hollywood does. Like, let's talk about
Yes.
like this exhausting journey that you're going to take through love, because it's not going to be great at first. By the time you
No.
get there, you're going to tear each other apart. And for me, that pattern had repeated so often, and I knew that it no longer served me. No longer, it was not somebody else's responsibility to find, give me that salvation I was seeking, that nirvana that I was
Right.
seeking, and these answers that I needed. And art extended that opportunity for me. And my first project that I launched my art career with was 100 vulnerable days is my hashtag. And I talked
Oh.
about vulnerability through 100 pieces of works, and it was so painful because to put myself out there on such a public platform on Instagram and to talk about things that were really, really personal. But I'm not kidding. Like, it was so beautifully received. And it was like, that's when I understood that there is an audience that is aching to talk about these things, that we are such a stoic society that we like talking about emotional risk isn't, that's not an easy thing. And I wanted to open that platform for myself. And so as I started doing that, it became an extension of other people's stories, which is such a like I think most artists like look for that. And I have been given that opportunity because all my commissions are really, really deep stories that I tell with my clients. And I'm lucky that when my clients reach out to me, it's nothing simple. Like right now,
Hmm.
I'm working on a concept for adoption. This family is going to adopt. This couple is going to adopt children from multiple ethnicities, and I've never painted anything like that. I have no idea how I'm going to create that story. But to be able to create something so meaningful where they want their future children to come to this house and see this piece and feel welcome forever.
Hmm.
Um,
I
and
love that. I think we sometimes tend to not think about when we think about a Helen Frankenthaler or Mark Rothko or a Jenny Holzer or somebody that we know
Mhm.
kind of their core work and and we see them as this larger than life person that the public has created,
Mhm.
right? So um but then when you talk about commissions, and I even think of from somebody like an architect like Frank Lloyd Wright, building a house for the community, for the
Sorry.
prairie and
Yeah.
his style, and then other commissioned artists that would take commissions, right? I mean, artists, a lot
Mhm.
of artists, you want to get to the point where you're getting commissions because that's your bread and butter right there, if that can be,
Mhm.
because those don't sell off the gallery walls all the time super fast
Right.
sometimes. So, but I hadn't really. I've always thought about it from this standpoint of, okay, so I'm Gauguin or something, and I'm going to go paint in
Sure.
somebody's house, or create a painting for them, and I've always kind of thought of it as it's going to come from me. But when you have a commission, you're going to interact with the person who's commissioning you. So even if it's not intentional, they're going to influence what the work is. Maybe you might even know the
100%.
place where it's going to be. And so that's going to
Yes.
influence how the work is. But you're deliberatively engaging with the person that's
Yes.
commissioning you to get into the story that you're going to come to together. It sounds like
Yes. Yes.
that's cool. That's really neat.
And most of my collectors are first time buyers, like first time commission buyers. And so it's important to me that they understand. And it's important to me that when they look at it, it's something that they want to look at every day. I always
Right.
tell them, this is something you're going to look at every day for the rest of your life. You want to make sure that this is a story we're telling,
Sorry, I'm just imagining swinging by their house one day. Wait, where'd my painting go? Oh,
Right.
oh, we're
And so, like,
displaying it upstairs because we're there more.
right. Yeah. And a lot of people do it. They put it up in their bedroom.
Yep.
Um, but,
Well, no,
but
actually, wait
yeah,
a minute, because I didn't pull my joke off quite right. So what I was saying was that they've hidden the painting because they didn't like it. You know what
yeah,
I
I know,
mean?
right? Yeah. You never know. right?
But
And that's the
that
last thing you want.
exactly, but that depth of it, that's really cool because, especially the story with adoption, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
parents are the soon to be parents are seeking a story to help seeking something from you to help tell the story of what they're about to begin, to make their children, you know, feel comfortable. That's pretty cool to get a commission like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm a little stuck with the concept, and it kind of came to me the day before yesterday. So I think it's going to be very, very special. But yeah, stories are, it's not that simple. It just some stories take 2 years to show up. Some stories show up overnight. Sometimes I
Yeah,
dream
and
the stories.
how often when you're so well, let's talk a little bit about the abstract and the
Hmm.
more um, contextual stuff here.
Sure.
The painting behind me.
Hmm.
What is the name of that painting? It's wait. Hold on. I know it, but go ahead.
Acquit.
Acquit. Yep.
Acquit. Yeah.
So with that painting, Acquit, which I've obviously latched onto, and I wanted to at least be able to show something of yours kind of back there.
Sure.
Um, that's the mixture of the two techniques.
Right.
And so you lay down the abstract and then add the constructed piece or vice versa, or does it change? How does all that work?
So Awaken, that's from Awaken. That's one of my first pieces that I painted. And that show was so organic. Everything was just very fluid. I created that background, and it was like the colors were very, very loud in this show. When my original work started completely black and white. So infusing color has been such an evolutionary process for me, because people kept telling me 3 years ago, why don't you paint with color? Why don't you paint with color? And I wasn't ready. And this year, it's just all I wanted was color. I wanted this explosiveness, And alcohol ink, for the most part, when people paint with it, is almost very translucent, right? Like, because
Hmm.
the ink can flow in any way you want. And when I first started playing with it, I wasn't attracted to the whole like transparency of the ink itself. So it didn't work for me. And with a quit, I literally dumped the entire 2 bottles of ink right on the canvas. And then I started playing with it, and I was like, that's it. Like, I wanted such potency of that color and the boldness in the conversation that I was having with the piece, because a quit is about really like finding kindness for your soul and forgiving yourself. And it's a very, very powerful piece. And I like that background became so celestial that I did not even expect that. And when I was done, I wanted this girl, this woman, um to like talk about her journey of like forgiving and herself and emerging from this like space of, because I'm like, I'm not super religious, but I am spiritual, and I do believe in higher power. I do believe in moving on from this life. I do believe in finding your purpose in life. And so Quit was really about understanding that the journey isn't so much just about you, because I think we're so caught up in ourselves that we aren't able to see beyond ourselves in this universe. And Acquit was really about getting to that place of, oh, hey, it's okay to treat yourself with kindness, and it's okay to forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made, but you move on from there and you find this world out there that's so incredibly beautiful. And yeah, so that piece just became, honestly, it had its own story, and I cried when I was done painting it. That was one of the pieces that brought me to my knees. It was really wonderful.
Wow, that I appreciate that. I appreciate that story and you sharing that story with us. It's like I said, I mean, painting is the shit, folks. I mean, you see what you see on the canvas, and yet that canvas, it comes back to you, with the artist. Even like somebody like Bacon or somebody like, and I'm looking at the triptych, right? And
Hmm.
I've seen it in a nice catalog, but I'm seeing it in front of me, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Like it just the canvas, the ink, the space, the buildup, everything, all the emotions, and then to sit in front of these, especially paintings that I've wanted to see for a long time. that I, had not been able to see them. And they've got a few paintings in places like Paris and London that I've never been to that I would like to see. So that all of that is just beautiful, and that story that is absolutely just. I just appreciate that you're sharing this with us. This is just I'm having a blast. And Adam looks like because I looked
Yeah.
at your profile there, my friend, and you are a creative director and an artist. And I mean, I could tell you knew a little bit about art when you started rattling off the names of
All the
famous
artists. Yeah.
New York school people and abstract artists and stuff like that. I had a great painting teacher say to me once, "It takes a long time looking ugly until it doesn't anymore," and that's the story of life too. I like that. I do. I do. I think probably most artists, no matter what, whether it's sculpture or painting. LOL. I was a studio assistant in Soho in the 80s. Dude, you must be about my age. I was in Soho in the 80s watching famous people snort cocaine at Studio 54 at like 15. So just, lots of fun stories in there too. But anyway, the just that yeah, like, I don't, like you're, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost here, but I'm like, I don't even know how to ask this question because with a lot of people, sometimes ask them like, well, what do you do for fun? But I mean, like, well, I'm looking at it, but I mean, like, um, what do you do to unwind? Like, because I know you've got this kind of this battle
Mhm.
between this tension of the detail and the
Yeah.
and the looseness. What's your unwind thing? Because, um, I think I don't know your background in terms of, your cultural background, but I've seen a lots of reference to like Diwali lately and that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. So I'm guessing you've got some South Asian Indian kind of,
Yes.
heritage.
I'm Indian. Yes.
You're Indian, okay.
Mhm.
And and the and so even that and what you're doing and the clothes and everything, like it just you're just check her out. Check out her Instagram. Go to her shows. Your show's not current. You're not doing anything right now, yes or no?
No, it's going on hiatus for a minute. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So
I'm
when that comes
bringing.
back, we'll make
Yeah.
sure we let
Yeah.
everybody know.
It's gonna come back in March. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So because yeah, there's just so much depth and detail and fun. But yeah, like what do you like to do other than paint?
Well, one of my favorite decompressing means to decompress is going to the mountains. I get away as often as I can. Because of the pandemic, I haven't traveled as much, but I just got back from Park City. I got away there, got away to
Oh,
hike
nice.
up there for about four days. So yeah, I hike, I horseback ride in the mountains. I do whatever I can up there.
You get out to
I like
Utah specifically, or do you go different places?
No, no, I just went to Park City mainly because I like Park City a lot.
Yeah,
But I for the most part I tend to end up in Colorado, higher
yeah.
elevation. I went to Tennessee last year. We hiked up in the Smokies.
It's fun. The
Um,
Smokies are fun, but it's not
yeah,
Colorado.
and
Yeah.
Colorado is like we really like. I did my first 14er the year before last, and
Oh,
I
nice.
have
What
yeah.
mountain?
I did Quandary Peak,
Okay.
so it was one of the
Very cool.
14ers there. And I have adult onset asthma. It was literally showed up that year, and so
Oh my gosh.
learning how to hike with that is a new practice for me, and it's been wonderful. It's like it's a whole different challenge. Peloton is a lifesaver from that standpoint because I do a lot of climb rides, and when I hiked in Park City, I could tell it made a difference. They say if you want to beat asthma, you got to beat up your lungs, right? Like it's like so.
Oh
Who would have
wow.
thought? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you just really just run a lot more, do everything you can to so that your lung capacity expands.
Because your lung capacity is gonna expand, even though it's reduced from the asthma, it's gonna be bigger than it was. Makes total sense. I never
Right. It
actually.
just takes about 30 minutes or so for my lungs to open up, and then I'm in a pretty good shape, in pretty good place for the hike this time. And we went up to 9,000 feet, so it's not that high. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, so that's my decompress, like what means to decompress, beating up my body and really like I I'm super competitive with I'm with myself. I didn't know
With
that.
yourself?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I had no idea. And being able to go to the mountains, it's just like this whole like space of complete silence comes in because you really have to focus on like these longer, especially the one that we just did in Park City, it was snow covered everywhere on the trails, and we didn't have snow boots or spikes on our shoes, and so we really had to focus not to fall because it was a pretty steep climb. And it was wonderful because my body was utterly exhausted and my mind was incredibly happy because I was able to get through it and actually empty my, headspace so much. So that's my form of like beautiful meditation.
My mind was incredibly happy. I like that. I
Yeah.
My mind isn't always incredibly busy. I don't know that how often it is incredibly happy, but it does get there. Like tonight, this kind of thing, my mind is definitely incredibly happy. But yeah, the mountains and I'll talk about cathedrals, right? I mean,
Right.
talk about, a gorgeous natural beauty of the mountains. I love Colorado. I was there about the first time I think when I was 8, and fell in love with Colorado and been back many times. I also the Tetons. I love the Tetons, and I also love when I get out to like Seattle because
Hmm.
Seattle has like cartoon mountains because they go from sea level to their 15,000 feet, so they just look like triangles. They're all
Triangles.
volcanoes.
Yeah. I haven't
Yeah,
been
and
to
it's
Seattle
such a
any. I haven't been to Seattle yet. I go to the Tetons quite a bit too. Jackson Hole
yeah.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tetons, they're much more, kind of pointy like that too in some
Yeah.
ways, but
Oh
oh
yeah.
my gosh, when I first went to Seattle, oh, of all places, we were driving from Hope, Arkansas, where Bill Clinton is from, to Seattle. Long story as to how that was happening, but it was a straight through trip. And so we get into Seattle at night, and we come around these dock areas and stuff, and so I see these massive ships and just all of so I'm my abstract. I eventually my photography became quite abstract, but I was doing what I was a little bit known for was kind of industrial, photography. And, I mean, I love going to Pittsburgh and shooting the bridges and all these things. And then as I eventually with painting actually and liking certain paintings moved in on stuff a lot. But
Okay.
would eventually do that. But so I just saw these glorious industrial scenes and shipyards and everything. And then when I got up in the morning, after we had hit the hotel and walked out, and I just see like because we're not on Victoria Island, but we're north of Seattle at this point, and so I just see like boom, like a cartoon mountain. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
holy cow! Because I'm at sea level where I'm at, and that mountain in the distance, the base of it is at sea level, and you see the top, and I was just blown away. So when you go there, you will be blown away. I mean, it will just
Oh
blow your
yeah. I
mind
can't
because
wait.
they're
It's
just
totally on my list. Yeah. I can't wait.
yeah. I can't wait for you to do that just so you'll remember that I said you'll be blown away because I mean it'll be really cool. So the and and have you do you have a new like what's next? What are you working on that you can talk about or what do
um.
you
So one of the hotels in Chicago, this is going to be a pretty big one. Is I'm working with them for a deal, and so I think that's kind of taking up a lot of my time right now. And then honestly, I kind of need a break because I am a little emotionally exhausted. I have a lot of
Mhm.
commissions that I have put on hold because of the show, which I need to revisit and just kind of get through that like um, checklist and then kind of restart next year. I would like to take the work to New York and LA next,
Mm,
mainly because I just want to expand my market a
sure.
little bit and my
I
audience
mean,
a little bit. Right.
we haven't really touched on it, but um I have this conversation almost every day with anybody that'll listen. Usually it's a captive audience because it's some kind of meeting and we're like this. And you're like, "Mm, okay, I have to listen to whatever he's going to say right now." But no, the business side of the business,
Hmm.
because I've been, I did my first little TV commercial when I was 4. I've been in and out of the entertainment world, never in a big way, but I went to film school and all this stuff. And I've shot commercials and directed music videos and stuff, but never in a, on a national kind of level.
Hmm.
But, um, the business side of the business is very difficult for me, even though over the last 8 years I've helped because she was just on last night, my friend and partner in her nonprofit, Dr. Dominica McBride, I've helped run the back end, the business end of that nonprofit for the last
Okay.
8 years. And I'm really at the part of it that I do, I'm really good at. But the but it was really hard for me to like boss myself around and run the business of my business. I can run the
Mhm.
business of somebody else's business really well, but it sounds like to me with your personality and your background in design and social media and stuff that just Jenny, the business person, is doing a pretty good job. I mean, how would you rate your business performance? I guess I would say. How are you
I
as a
think it's
business
been pretty
person?
good. I think because of my background in e-commerce and marketing, I've been able to use my skill set in that space to really build a brand within the 5 years that I have. Because it's not, easy to build an art career, and I've been able to really apply everything, all my business acumen. I just actually did a presentation for a group of people, to a cohort that is learning on how to build a business around creative, like a creative profession. And
Hmm.
it was really wonderful because, like, when I started explaining how I built my like brand, even on social media, it was very, very strategic. And some of the feedback that I got was that they were very, very surprised at how methodical I am and how I approach everything. I have contracts in place. I have a lawyer, a really good lawyer. Um, and everything that I do is very, very exclusive to my brand. I offer very limited edition prints. I don't offer prints that often. Um, so yeah, it's been wonderful to be able to like make sure that my business side of things has been pretty clean. I incorporated myself before I even knew I was going to paint, so I've had that in place at all times. But yeah, and yeah, it's been nice to be able to think of it as a business and not just play,
Right.
right? Like I think it's so important because I don't think you succeed if you aren't thinking you don't have your business hat on.
For sure. Oh, Adam says I work for Mark Tainsey, David Leach, and Marcia Gigley King, all painters from the '80s. It was an incredible time to be alive. I bet it was, man. We
Oh, I'm
should
sure.
talk sometime. You might even join me on the show sometime. We can talk
Yeah.
that's those schools of paintings and stuff. I think that would be fun. I'm a painting geek, as I've already said. The For the business side of it, the yeah, again, I love that you're even talking to people that, or want to be creatives or, creatives or whatever, just starting out and kind of giving them that advice because even I guess I have met some creative people that are kind of normal. But lots of creative people, from Rothko, and to whatever level of creativity I have, I'm bipolar. It's well managed. It has been for quite a
Hmm.
while. But we tend to have, different less than neurotypical brains in a lot of ways. So sometimes some of these skills that you need to be successful in business don't translate if you're an
Yeah.
artist. So really being able to do that and understand that is fantastic, and helping people do that, that's really cool, Jenny. That's really neat.
Yeah, and it's been really nice to be able to even share my learnings with my friends in the artist, community. Happy to help them build their websites or give them some tips on it. One of my best friends struggles with that. He's an artist, and he literally just told me yesterday because we have the same PR person, and I've been kind of training her in the way I want her to kind of lead my brand,
Right.
and she's applying some of that to his brand. And he said, I need you to just kind of like head some of my direction. And I told him that he will benefit from what I'm teaching her, what I'm, working with her on. And he said, no, I just want to go to you. I need you to help me because you're doing it so well for yourself.
Forget the middleman.
Um, but I think it's like, and I want to give back somehow, right? Like the point of knowledge is it should be shared. Like it grows
It
if
should
it's
indeed.
shared. Um, and so I want to be able to create some kind of a program next year, maybe a 10-week course or something where I can
Oh,
teach people
nice.
how to like really think of art as a business and not just a means to make money or just like, have a outlet for you or have an outlet for your skill set.
Right. Well, how wonderful
Because
is that to be able to say, not just think of art as a way to make money, because a
I
lot
mean,
of,
I
you
think
know what I
this
mean?
whole mentality of starving
Yeah.
artists, I mean, that doesn't that is the most ridiculous thing ever. Like we need money to survive. I think having a
Yes.
healthy
You
relationship
deserve
with
money.
money, right? Having a healthy relationship with money allows you to elevate, from like your lifestyle from money to purpose. Like I
Right.
think we're all looking for
Hey,
purpose, but if that bucket is, fulfilled, I think it
Mhm.
opens up doors in areas that you unimaginable.
I gotta say that with my bipolar and my ADHD and just my style as a creator and everything, I like button up against that deadline. I don't feel like I can be creative until that. But I will say this: if my belly's full and my bank account's not bouncing and my electricity's on, I'm gonna be more creative. I do not
100%.
care
100%.
what you
I think,
say.
yeah.
If my lights are off and I'm hungry and I'm grumpy, I'm not gonna be creative. And I think it really feels like even if I think about it from a painting perspective, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm Monet's, the gallery, and it's early on. I'm like, yeah, dude, look, here's the deal. Um, you're not going to make much money with these paintings. Don't even worry about it. Don't expect that you're going to be comfortable or anything. Like they wanted you to feel bad and because they were abusing you because they were, they knew they were going to
I
make a
think
lot of
it's still
money.
I mean, I'm shocked that even now, I just had someone ask me 2 days ago if this is what I do full time. And I haven't had that question. I haven't
I
had
was,
anybody ask me that question in the last 5 months, and this was
yeah,
the first time in last 5 months, and I literally had to pause for a second because I
uh
didn't know how
huh,
to respond to that
I
because,
know, right.
like, yes, this is
Well,
my profession. This is what I
I was like, you were so full time to me, I was afraid to talk to you. So,
No, it was like it's just this idea that art is not a profession, right? Like art is a
yeah.
hobby.
Oh my
And
God.
I think like when if you aren't going to treat this as a profession, you're not going to be successful. And I always tell
Right.
artists that this is a business. You have to be able to willing to walk away. If you want to make $2,000 on a painting, you have to be willing to walk away from the $300 painting. You just
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
supplement your income
Right.
in other ways. Find a part-time job, paint part-time until you can go full-time. But the
Well,
minute you
that is
set your
really
price right, like the minute you set your price point at $300 to jump to
right.
2,000 is going to take you a minute.
And it's gonna take you even psychologically a minute. It's gonna take your
That's
your your
exactly why it takes a
commissions,
minute. You literally make the amount of money you want to make,
100%. Yeah,
right?
100%.
Because
I
your
agree with you.
resources, your mental faculties, everything
Mhm.
is dedicated to that number.
Right, and for some reason, definitely, I think, again, especially with fine artists, painters and that, it is kind of like, yeah, but, isn't kind of suffering kind of what it's all about? No, it's not what it's all I suffered plenty to come up with the damn idea, I need food in my belly, I need a nice place to live,
Yeah.
oil paint is expensive.
I don't think
You know what
any
I mean?
artist
Like
will tell you that they create in pain. Most artists don't
yeah,
create in pain. Once
yeah,
they've emerged from the pain is when they can go back and paint. You need to be
100
happy
yeah,
to be able to create beautiful work. It's a
very good,
myth.
very good.
It's a
Well, we
myth
should
that, yeah.
when you do that series, let me know. We love to have you back on the show. We could promote it.
Yeah.
Anything that you ever need somebody to see, or even if you just want to, send me some specific things. You have a way bigger following than I do, but my little niche behind all of the behind the curtain of all of what I'm doing here is that I every day, because I'm always interviewing people, I meet really interesting people and people with, like I I have people that I've met now that I couldn't ask them for a favor because I couldn't ask a big enough favor of them, right?
Hmm.
So, there are some people that I've met out in LA that it's like, "Ooh, I hope someday I have $1 million idea," because that would be about the minimum they would be willing to invest, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but one of
Yeah.
these days, I've connected a bunch of different people to a bunch of different things. So I'm definitely always on the lookout for connecting people with people. That's just automatic with what I do. That's just really what the show is about in a lot of ways. And our two things about this mission. I say it all the time: make bank. And folks, in live streaming, what I'm doing right now, there are, I don't know, tens of thousands of people could create generational wealth. There's just I could give you 5 opportunities right now to make, I sound like a damn entrepreneur on Clubhouse. To make money. Reach out to me, DM me. I'm happy to share those ideas with people. But the thing is that, the oh, sorry. I got into my multi-level marketer stuff in Clubhouse and all that irritation. Let me get my brain back here for a second. Um, but the yeah, well, just really just to get back to the idea of artists deserve to make money.
Hmm.
They should make money and to believe. I love that. You know, you got to refuse doing you said it much better than I did, but that $300 painting, if you're going to
Hmm.
sell that $2,000 painting, and it makes total sense. We had a discussion in this in a clubhouse room the other day with the 1 minute film school with Darian of people were telling me like these are new-ish kind of video filmmakers, videographers, DPs, cinematographers kind of stuff, videographers, I guess. And they were giving me they were telling me the prices they're charging. And I'm like, look, I would fetch, tote, and carry. That just means I wasn't even a grip. I was just taking the stuff around on an industrial video shoot in the early days. And this is in the 90s, and I'd make $150 a day. Now, that would be about $1,000 a day in today's money. And that's what I was worth because I was good at what I was doing. And when I moved up and started to direct and started to shoot and started to produce and started to write, you know, that contract with my boss, that might be worth 3,000 and I might get 40% of that. You know what I mean? So I could work on a 2-day thing and make thousands of dollars.
Hmm.
And it would be worth way more thousands of dollars today. And the point was, man, like don't sell yourself short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't do that work. I know you need money, but I love this how you said it. You know, find other ways to do it, especially if you can fetch, tote, and carry and make some money and turn and a couple of those and turn down the you're going to pay me too little to be the DP. I like
Hmm.
that strategy because
Yeah.
so many people are just going to hustle and do whatever they do or say, well, my normal rate is 500, but you know, friends and family discount or whatever. No, your normal rate is the friends and family discount. So,
Hmm.
because you give that to everybody, because you make
Right.
everybody your friend or family. So I really like that. I really like that. Holding steadfast for what you think you're worth. That
Hmm.
may be one of the keys to why Jenny is successful, you know, because
Thank
you
you.
held
Yeah, I
out,
mean,
you know?
I mean, this wasn't just like an overnight decision. I read books on art as a business, right? Like there are so many great books out there, and I wanted to study that. How do you price your art? How do you set yourself up for the level that you want to? And my next bracket is much higher than where I'm at right now. And that's my goal for 2021,
I love
2022.
that.
How do I jump to that number? And I now have a PR person. I'm thinking of hiring someone who can business manage some of
Oh,
the things that
nice.
I cannot focus on so that
Right.
I can actually paint. I can paint a little bit more. Someone gave me the best advice when I first started. Do what you're great at and hire people better than you what you're not good at, right?
Oh, I agree.
And that's what I want. I don't want to tell you how to do your job because if I have to, then I don't need you. And
Right. I
those are
can
the
do it
people that
myself. The,
right, and those are the people I hire.
right. And that, no, 100% too. I like that in the sense of, I definitely, have been kicking around. I've been talking to a couple of groups in LA about doing some, having them do PR and stuff like that. And, you know,
Hmm.
I'm just not quite there yet with the income, but, um, it also forcing myself to elevating myself up even with what you said to demand kind of what I think I'm really worth. When that clicks, I mean, I'm going to be getting those people that I need, right? Let's
Yeah.
put it this way: I'm never going to get their $300 painting at a time. I need,
Right.
you know, four $2,000 paintings to start to hire them. So in that sense, so I really
Right.
that's good advice for me too because it really does help me kind of think about the way to focus around that. And 100%, I can hire somebody, you know, in Jamaica. I've done it that can do admin work and stuff for me, you know, through one of those
Sure.
online services, and that does really help. But yeah, that is it's very true, 100%. I just love that your approach to art is so it's transparent, it's real, it's honest. Not that other people aren't, but it's just so straightforward and out there. And the fact that you're now saying, look, you're worth it, and nobody else is going to think you're worth it if you don't. You
Oh,
know,
100%. And I'm telling you, it's like magical, the number that you start thinking. And when I say it's not the whole secret, mumbo jumbo that it's, oh, you put it out there and the universe makes it happen. Yes, that's of course, but that
sure,
manifestation happens because when you set a goal for yourself and when you start thinking of any kind of number, of any kind of milestone, you automatically start thinking of resources to dedicate to in that,
To make it happen.
to make it
100%.
happen, and it's you are the person who's making it happen. And it's fascinating because every time I've set a number in my head, it happens. And every time it happens, by the time it happens, I've already, like, there's been three other times when it hasn't happened. So by the time I get there, I'm so humbled by that experience, which is why I recently talked about rejection. I think it really, really having this healthy relationship with rejection and understanding that it's here to teach you these like really beautiful, humbling lessons.
I
And by the time I
I
get
gotta be the
there, I'm
smartest guy in the world because I mean, I'm rejected all the time.
right. But like, I think looking at it as, not a lot of times when when things don't happen, it's because you weren't ready. And I truly believe that the universe
I believe
really
that
only
too,
gives
yeah.
you as much as you can handle, right? And by the
Mhm.
time I get there, I am in such a great place that I'm already thinking, I'm like, wow, maybe I should have thought about a bigger number, right? Like, because
Boom.
by the time you, right. And so I'm
Yeah,
already like, my next number is not double, it's three times more, right? Like,
right,
and it's just
right.
how your mindset works and how your energy, your energy goes, like your thoughts, where energy goes, where your thoughts go. And my thoughts
And I
start
think
thinking in
too for
that
people
direction. Yeah.
too, because I think we'll get a lot of people that watch us on replay for sure. And the proof is in the pudding. Think about, I can definitely think about when I want to, oh, I don't know, like let's say I want a new iPhone, right?
Hmm.
Um, I will, previous to wanting the iPhone, let's say I'm going to spend $1,500 on the iPhone or whatever, previous to, there's this pool of $1,500 or whatever that is out there. It's there. But when I decide that I want the iPhone, I am going to find ways to get it. I'm going to sell something. I'm
Yeah.
going to try to do a little extra work. I'm going to do something else. For me, somebody with ADD and bipolar, and we have these things, that aren't good. Like we can go on buying sprees and stuff. But I mean, I learned so much about the way my mind works, and that definitely helps with goals because recently, like, money has never motivated me,
Right.
and most things that I've done well and achieved, and I've done a lot of things in my life, almost none of it revolved around money. Now, money motivates me because I can do things with it. And even at 55, I'm starting to think, so for example, I wouldn't, as a general rule, make a goal of this electric Porsche that I saw fairly recently. I'm like, holy shit, a fully electric Porsche? Like,
That sounds amazing.
wow, how midlife crisis of me would that be? But the thing is, I'm not going to buy the Porsche if I just have $88,000. That's not going to
Right.
happen. But
Right.
if I have $2 million and can now afford the Porsche, it's okay for the Porsche to be the goal. And I've never really kind of understood that about myself. I need to motivate myself with material things because so many other things will come in order to get it, right? So
Hmm.
even to get that iPhone, wow, okay, then I can justify it as the phone I use for my show. Okay, so then I can get a tax write off and then I can justify making this purchase or whatever. But I want that Porsche. I saw it on this show the other day, and I sold cars and managed car dealerships to make money to pay off all my debt from being, involved in the environmental movement and all this stuff. But I really have never done that, and I'm like, man, I got to trick my brain into doing it because money doesn't motivate me. But like I
Yeah.
said, oh, I really do like fast cars, and I would love an electric fast car. And the only way I'm going to get an electric fast car is we probably have to own a really big house, and I have to have a lot of money. And we're living in California, like I want to do, and I'm going to get there by motivating myself that way. So I love that too. Just, find what motivates you, set the right price for your
Right.
work, a price that you deserve and a price that you can get. And don't undercut your value, your worth. Don't do it.
I think like self-worth and self-value if is so necessary, and to be able to be willing to walk away from what doesn't serve you or doesn't align with that number is
The-
so necessary, because
I-
it's this mindset, right? Like it's the truth is that any work is worth the money that you say I'm worth, right? Like people
Mhm.
instantly start paying attention to that. If you're willing to say, hey, I am looking for a $60,000 job, and someone says this job, and you know that the job is worth that, and if you go in and they offer you 50 and you're willing to take that, or 40, 45, let's say, if you're willing to take that, unless you're in, I mean, we're not talking desperate situations, right?
I get
If
it.
you're in a
Sure,
desperate
sure.
situation,
Yeah.
that's a different story. But we're talking in a great place, you have options and you are willing to walk away from that, chances are they'll pay attention to you and they may come
Right.
back and say, you know what, we want you because you weren't willing to take. And that's happened to
And
me. That's
and
happened to me.
and one of these days, it's gonna happen, and they're going, "Yeah, that was 6 months ago. Now it's 100."
Right? Exactly. Yeah. You never know. With me, I'm like, sorry, my number
Yeah.
shifted. So,
Sorry. Oh, that was a great
or,
number. I'd love to give you that deal, but
or
my
I no
business
longer want
manager
to
won't
work for
let me.
anybody. Right. Like for
Yeah,
me,
right. No,
I quit
that's
the
good.
corporate
I
world.
love that.
Yeah.
And you know what I was also thinking too, because I think we've all been in that situation where we have been able to walk away from something no matter what it is. But think
Right.
about just how powerful you feel when you do walk away. Instead of it
Hmm.
being a negative thing, like, oh my God, I'm giving up $45,000. No, I'm walking away because I've got standards and values, and this is what I'm worth. And you can walk away, turn your back, and feel powerful as you leave the room. You
Oh,
know?
incredibly powerful. I think
Yeah.
like having a backup plan is so necessary when you have a goal, especially. So I always say have a plan A and plan B, and the plan B should not be um, directly correlated to what you're willing to walk away from. So plan B should be really your plan B. It should not be 1A, 1B, right? Like people have
Oh, I
1A,
like that.
1B. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have a plan B, and that's not related to anything that you're going to do in that professional, like if it's a creative pursuit, because it's not easy to find that place. But once you start, it's that like those darts start connecting so beautifully. But it's that first step that takes a while to show up. But once it does, it's so worth it. That journey is beautiful.
Wow. That is just whew, phenomenal. We have been on here for about an hour and
Hmm.
15 minutes or so, roughly. And boy, that went fast. That was really fun. And I
That was
didn't do my, um, I need to stop us at an hour so we can cut this together for Instagram. But now Haps changed to this over each other kind of format. So I'll just straight cut it at a point and just say see
sure,
part two. And I'll put this
sure.
up on Saturday so you can promote it out there with everybody because I gotta be, I gotta say, I've, my shows are always fun because I have fun, but I mean, they're always, I think they're really productive. But I really want to say to people, if you have just kind of enjoyed even the stuff that we've talked about from a business perspective and a goal setting perspective, share this out with people, folks, because I literally learned a couple things tonight talking to you and that are going to help me in doing what I'm doing. And I just, wow, that was not a dynamic I was expecting. And, but I could tell you knew what you were doing business wise. And we didn't touch at all about any of the things that I think you're also passionate about, representation for women in art and
Hmm.
all of those things. So anytime, maybe in a few months or whatever, we can bring you
Sure.
back and we could go into that. And anytime any of that stuff crops up and needs to be promoted or whatever, or you need an extra
Hmm.
voice or something, sometimes 55-year-old white guy's voice, does need to be heard. Not most of the time, but sometimes. And the in this fight because women's art was a thing in the 70s. That's what they called it,
Yeah.
women's art. And it was like we had to call it women's art because nobody was paying attention to us. And so there was this women's art movement. But of course, the goal would be to get away from having to call it women's art and just be art. But we're
Yeah.
not there. We're there
No,
because we don't
not
call it
even
women's
close.
art anymore.
I mean, it's
But in terms of
staggering. The numbers are
representation,
shocking. The
it,
numbers are
it is. It
shocking.
is shocking. So, because we would
But
probably talk,
that's a whole another
we're going to
conversation.
do that another time. And I can't
Someone
wait.
did ask if you're going to show my work. You guys, whoever's on here, my website is JENNY, V as in Victor, YAS as in Sam.com. And most of my work is on there. So feel free to jump on there. My
Yeah,
other, so what I talked about Awaken, it's all on there.
we got to talking so much that we didn't get to really
Show the
see any of
art.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
So,
But
yeah.
oh, trust me,
But it is
yeah,
on my
take a
website.
look.
I know a lot of you guys are not on Instagram, but yeah, it's on my
Yes, and
website.
definitely follow you on Instagram. And thank you just so much, and thank you so much for saying yes, and just letting me get to just oh wow. I mean, I'm just giving you the ooh amazing.
Thank you.
Just
Thank
really
you. It's
love your
been
work and
wonderful. It's been
love your
wonderful.
story
Thank
and
you.
love how you present yourself and what you're bringing to the world is just is joy filled, Jenny. And I really appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Very good. Well,
And
listen, my name is
we will
Revolution McKinnis.
reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And we used to be able to talk after this because it wouldn't disconnect. But I'll reach out and
Yeah.
we'll figure some stuff out. Anything you need, let me know. Oh, also, any other artists that you know that might have
Sure.
fun doing this show, hey, send them
Yeah,
my way. I'll stack
I
this thing
will.
up
I
with
will do
artists
that. Yeah. I
all
mean,
the
I know a
time.
lot of artists in Chicago. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
fantastic. That'd be great. I
Definitely.
love
Yeah.
talking art.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And very good. Well, thanks again. And I'm Revolution McKinnis. This has been the big interview on RevMac Live on Haps. Check out Haps, folks. It's a fun place to broadcast. There's a fun community here, and you can make a living here, actually. And anybody wants to know about that, let me know. Thanks again, Jenny. We will see you
Thank
soon.
you. Have a good
Peace
one,
be
you
with
guys.
you.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Peace be with you.